Right now on Upfront.
On to the Senate.
The one big beautiful bill, as President Trump named it himself.
President Trump's sweeping domestic bill passing the House on a razor-thin party line vote. This weekend, lawmakers on the pitch. Republicans touting the massive tax and spending bill. Democrats promising they'll pay for it at the ballot box.
This is one big, ugly bill.
This Sunday, Wisconsin's delegation. The potential changes brewing in the Senate. With us, Republican Congressman Tom Tiffany and Democratic Senator Tammy Baldwin.
Supreme battle.
And now the court is making decisions like they are politicians.
The next state Supreme Court race already taking shape. Liberal appeals court judge Chris Taylor launching her campaign. The liberal justices already backing her. And moments after her launch, she's with us.
I will run a competitive race, and I intend to win.
Then the new poll.
I said waste, fraud, and abuse for Medicaid.
President Trump's approval, the hot issues facing voters, the talk of cuts to Medicaid. Marquette Law School poll director Charles Franklin with the new numbers and what they all mean.
This is Upfront with Jaron Jordan and political director Matt Smith.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us this holiday weekend. A razor-thin party line vote. The House passing what Republicans have coined the big, beautiful bill meant to deliver on President Trump's domestic agenda. Now that uncertain future, to say the least, in the U.S. Senate. The sweeping measure now expected to undergo changes after passing the House early Thursday morning after a marathon overnight session.
The bill extending the Trump tax cuts also allocates more money to the military and border security and delivers on the president's campaign promise of no tax on tips or overtime. The price tag, in part, paid for with cuts to Medicaid, food assistance, and clean energy programs. Republican Congressman Tom Tiffany joins us now, fresh off that vote. Congressman, it's good to see you. Welcome back to Upfront.
Yeah, good to join you guys today.
So let's start, broadly speaking, looking at this overall bill. Are you comfortable with everything that's in this?
I am. So it enhances border security. That's number one. That was one of the top two issues back in November. We're delivering on the promise here that we're going to secure the border, as President Trump has been doing here over the first few months of his administration. It also reforms Medicaid to preserve and protect it for the future, to make sure that some people who have been getting Medicaid benefits from the taxpayers, like illegal aliens and able-bodied working adults, that they will not be on the program.
Congressman, the spending portion of this, one of the latest CBO estimates said this would increase the deficit by $2.3 trillion over the decade. Senator Johnson has indicated he thinks it could go up to $4 trillion as is. That could even trigger automatic cuts to Medicare over the next decade. Are you fine with this spending? How do you justify that?
Well, first of all, it sounds, what you quoted there, it sounds like you're saying the CBO scored it. So we're always skeptical of that, especially with some of the scoring they did in the previous sessions of Congress. So I think there's some things where we could push some of the deficit reduction closer to now that I hope the Senate, including Senator Johnson, will work on as it goes over there. For example, there's something in there, the state and local tax deduction, which is really important in like New York, California, those states that are really high taxed. It's over, I think, $300 billion that's going into that. I hope the Senate is able to pull that out of there. That's going to help that bill get to where it's more deficit neutral.
The final changes to the package do speed up the work requirements for Medicaid. Another CBO estimate put 7.6 million people going uninsured under this. Are you preparing for millions of people to go underinsured, and are you okay with that?
I don't think that's going to happen because, so first of all, if you're an able-bodied adult, childless, you should work. Look at Wisconsin a couple years ago when we had that referendum on the statewide ballot. It passed 80-20. If you're able-bodied, you should work. That's what people believe in. But so think about those people now. If they get a job, many of them will get employer-funded insurance. So they're not, I believe most of those people will not end up uninsured. They're going to get employer-based insurance.
Senator Johnson, as you know, as this now heads to the Senate, is hell-bent on ensuring this bill does not pass as is, insisting Congress go back to pre-pandemic spending levels. Do you hope he is successful in stopping the bill as is and pushing for much deeper cuts?
Senator Johnson's been very consistent in regards to this. I mean, much of the blowout in spending that happened over the last number of years that has led to the inflation that we've had, higher interest rates that are it's taking money out of people's pockets, is as a result of that excessive spending. I hope Senator Johnson is going to find ways to be able to go back to pre-pandemic spending, put some of the cost of living increases in. He explains it very well. I think it's a real opportunity for the Senate.
Are you concerned at all that the Senate would look to cut Medicaid even more in a quest to find more savings?
I think there's some ways in which they can find more savings. And I think over time, it's going to be important to do that. Because if we're going to protect and save that program for who it's meant to be, which is the vulnerable, it's someone that has a disability, pregnant women, poor people. If we're going to protect that program for who it was meant for, there are more reforms that can be made.
Let me ask you quickly about 2026 as we wrap. Congressman, you came in a close second for governor in the WisPolitics straw poll at the convention last weekend. You told WisPolitics you're asking yourself right now if you are the best Republican to run. Where are you in that thought process, and do you think there is someone better at this point?
Yeah, where can I do the most good for the people of the state of Wisconsin? And am I the best candidate? Those are the key questions. But what comes first is what's going on in Washington, D.C. The people of the 7th Congressional District in northern western Wisconsin, they hired me to do this job for the next 2 years. That is what I'm focused on at this point. In a few months, when we get to the August break, we're going to be able to deal with that question of whether I should run for governor. All I know is one thing. We can do better than what we have right now.
So August, we should know your decision is what you're saying?
No, we'll decide later this year. I'm not setting a specific timeline, but we'll decide that in the next few months. We got to take care of business here in Washington, D.C. first.
Congressman Tom Tiffany, fresh off the vote in the House. Congressman, like always, thank you. We appreciate it.
Great to join you, Matt.
Now the uncertainty, as we mentioned, in the Senate. Democrats this weekend continuing to push back on the legislation, attempting to warn Republicans they'll pay the price in next year's midterms. Senator Tammy Baldwin, for example, has been holding events across the state highlighting what Democrats say are the terrible provisions in the bill. We joined Baldwin in Waukesha Friday.
For Democrats at this point, is your approach just to stand up as loud as you can and just talk about how bad you think this bill is?
It's also to elevate the voices of my constituents who I have been hosting opportunities for constituents who rely on Medicaid, for example, parents with adult children with disabilities who would not be able to keep their child safe were it not for Medicaid, health care, and services. Just to elevate those stories. Republicans are finding that this is a deeply unpopular bill. What I'm going to do is continue to elevate the stories of my constituents. And when the people speak out and when people really understand what's in this bill, I think we can defeat it.
Would you like the Trump tax cuts to go away?
I would like to have a tax proposal that is centered on the middle class and growing the middle class and helping working people.
Republicans
centered
say
around.
Yeah, I was going to say Republicans say this is that bill.
Yeah, maintain the corporate tax rates that were so lowered in Trump's first term. That's not acceptable. To continue the tax breaks for the very wealthy, that's what this bill is.
What do you make of Senator Johnson, your counterpart, saying there's no way he's going to support the bill as is because he wants deeper cuts?
In the end, politics makes strange bedfellows, and if he's a no, I welcome that. I'm a no for a very different reason. I think the cuts go way too far. They were put together very hastily this last week in the middle of the night. They have not been thought through, and in the end, I think it's going to end up costing average people more.
You've had some recent interactions back and forth with RFK Jr., the HHS secretary. I guess first off, was that your goal, to have some exchanges that receive some attention?
I wanted to raise issues very relevant to Wisconsin because we are sort of experiencing a lack of responsiveness because of decisions he made or happened under his watch. The one that has been so troubling to me is the displacement of about 1,800 school children in Milwaukee Public Schools because 6 schools have lead and needed to close. And when Milwaukee called the Center for Disease Control and the branch that is focused on lead remediation, all the employees, all the experts there had been fired. And I wanted to hold RFK Jr. accountable. He's the secretary of the agency and allowed these massive layoffs and firings to happen under his watch.
What did you make when he came back and said, well, we have a team on the ground in Milwaukee, Senator?
That's just not the case. My understanding is that there's a piece of equipment that was sent, but that's not a substitute for the experts in epidemiology and analytics that have built up expertise over years.
You seem to indicate you're going to or are working with HHS. I mean, are we going to see a team on the ground? It seems like RFK Jr. has potentially given you some assurances.
The head of the division where all of these employees worked, as of this week, said none of them have been rehired.
So what's going to happen?
We're going to keep on raising the heat for this cabinet secretary to do his job.
Do you think
and to be transparent and honest. I mean, that wasn't the only thing I asked him about in the 2 times he appeared, although it's something that I want to make sure we continue to hold his feet to the fire. But I talked about Head Start funding and got his commitment on the record, by the way, that unlike what we had heard prior from the administration, that they were going to eliminate Head Start across the country, that they are going to keep a commitment. I'll believe it when I see it, right? But that's important.
All right, coming up, another contentious state Supreme Court race appears to be set. Liberal appeals court judge Chris Taylor officially launching her campaign. Conservative Justice Rebecca Bradley set to seek another 10-year term. Taylor's first comment since entering the race with us next.